He found the Inquisitor in the observation decks. The Admiral tensed. It was all but imperceptible. His starched uniform did not budge. The squareness of his posture was inviolate. The medals running across his chest were silent and still. Nonetheless, the Admiral tensed.
Admiral Vars,
the Inquisitor said.
Thank you for meeting with me.
I am at your service, Inquisitor Apollyon. The Inquisitor stood with his back to the Admiral, staring out through the viewing glass and onto the world of Khatar. The planet was a dusty yellow-brown. Its cities were bruises of grey across an otherwise monochrome desert.
The Celestial Lions have performed admirably,
Apollyon said. Yes, my lord. Praise the Emperor.
A shame that it was all for naught.
Vars frowned. For naught, my lord? The Inquisitor turned. Vars restrained an instinctual shudder. Apollyon looked every bit the zealot he was. Minuscule prayer script was inked into his face, artificially wrinkling his skin such that it was impossible to determine his age. The lettering was bumpy and discoloured where it had been reapplied over burn scars, the old wounds peppering his face like buckshot from a gun. Yet his eyes shone a terrible, piercing blue, alight with the vigour of youth or divine madness. Apollyon smiled. His teeth were pearly white. Vars swallowed.
Alas, yes,
the Inquisitor confirmed.
The Astartes' intervention, though militarily effective, has failed to eradicate the taint of chaos from Khatar.
Apollyon paused, as if expecting the Admiral to gainsay him. When the naval officer said nothing, the Inquisitor continued.
I have completed my preliminary evaluations of Khatar's civilian population, and concluded that further investigation is unnecessary. Our intervention came too late. The populace is corrupt. Heresy has taken root in their very bones.
The Inquisitor smiled again. His eyes flashed.
The infection must be eradicated, lest it be allowed to spread to other worlds in the sector. Plot firing solutions on every settlement on Khatar, no matter how small. Turn the sand to glass and the heretics to ash.
Vars took in a deep breath. He felt Apollyon's eyes bore into his soul. Yes, my lord.
What is it?
Forgive me, my lord. The Astartes.
The Celestial Lions have completed their materiel gathering and are now safely in orbit, Admiral. And I gave evacuation orders to my acolytes 3 hours ago. There is no risk of collateral damage.
Yes, my lord.
You seem discomforted.
No, my lord. I mean, yes, but it is of no importance.
Let me worry about the Celestial Lions, Admiral.
The Inquisitor turned away, returning to the view of doomed Khatar.
Simply perform your duty, and all shall be well.
Yes, my lord. Apollyon's eyes glittered. The perfect blue swallowed up the dusty browns of the world below.
You have your orders, Admiral.
Yes, my lord. It was not, strictly speaking, an exterminatus. The planet itself would survive and remain capable of supporting life, though the ash clouds of its murdered cities would swallow out the sun and cause ecological disasters that would take millennia to reverse. No ship, no matter how small, was spared involvement. Even the transport vessels, their holds swollen with promethium stores and reserve adamantine plating, contributed to the murder, their macro batteries gobbing explosive spit towards the grey mass of distant cities. The order had come from Admiral Vars himself. Everyone would be complicit. Everyone would share in the moral enormity of the task. Nonetheless, it was the ships of the line that did the real damage. Their lance batteries targeted the major settlements. Beams of brilliant light cut open the heavens and formed pillars of awesome destruction. Bombardment cannons rained apocalyptic hell, splitting apart cathedrals and hablocks, and causing such devastation that the military intervention of Astartes seemed almost quaint by comparison. The flagship even unleashed its Nova Cannon, transforming the capital city of Hattar into a blackened crater in which nothing could survive. The fleet was thorough. Admiral Vars had given the order, but every captain knew the true source of the command. Some wretches upon Hattar would survive. Short of destroying the planet itself, such cockroaches were inevitable. But they would inherit a world without infrastructure. There would be no running water, no motive force, no food production. To all intents and purposes, Hattar was dead. Murdered. They met on the forge world of Vanaheim, neutral ground of sorts. Though they both were loyal servants of the God Emperor, and had, in theory, no reason to act against each other, Inquisitors were forever a paranoid breed. Despite the icy natural climate, the air was warm with the fug of ceaseless industry. The hum of motive force shuddered through their teeth, the acrid sting of soldered metal tickling at their nostrils. The Magi of Vanaheim had provided a meeting place in the heart of their most sacred manufactura districts. The air was so hazy with pollution fumes that the vibration of industrial sound was visible in the bouncing smog. They stood on a gantry above a grand production line. Beneath, hundreds of almost completed salamander command vehicles were blessed by rows of chanting tech adepts, the choirs honouring the warlike aspect of their machine spirits in a low, bone-shivering binaric.
Well,
the first said. She was a woman of indeterminate age, her features so nondescript that her anonymity almost went full circle into notability again. She wore practical clothes that gave no clue of the armoured body glove festooned with weapons beneath.
we might struggle to hear one another, but at least we won't be overheard.
Inquisitor Apollyon smiled. His eyes were utterly devoid of warmth, radiating the cold of the frozen tundra.
Do not be so certain, Karis. The ears of Mars are sharp.
Inquisitor Karis pulled a face.
It was you who wanted to meet here, Apollyon. We could be on my ship right now, enjoying a glass of Amasec instead of this cancerous dust.
Yes, well,
Shall we get to it?
if you like.
Karis pursed her lips.
The Celestial Lions.
Yes,
It's a problem.
an opportunity.
An opportunity? How do you reckon that?
Apollyon's smile broadened. Somehow, the pull of his lips made the expression seem ever more joyless.
It is an opportunity to remind the Adeptus Astartes of their limits.
or to discover our own.
We have no limits. We are the Imperial Inquisition.
We have no limits until they are imposed upon us, Apollyon, as you well know.
On occasion, authority must be reaffirmed, lest it be forgotten. The Space Marines must be reminded that they serve at the pleasure of Holy Terra. In my opinion, the reminder is long overdue.
Some will say they have not forgotten. The Celestial Lion sent a delegation to Terra, after all.
That is already in hand.
Kiris inhaled sharply through her teeth.
You are playing a dangerous game, Apollyon.
Every game we play is dangerous.
Still, this is the Adeptus Astartes. Their kind almost destroyed the species once.
Precisely why they must be put in their place. We must not forget our history, Kiris. We have seen what happens when the Astartes assert their independence.
But they are not acting unilaterally. They are petitioning Terra. And some will be sympathetic to their cause.
Let them be. The Lords of Terra would do well to pay attention to what follows.
And what if some side with the chapter?
Apollyon laughed. It was an ugly noise, almost a cackle.
Over the Inquisition. By all means. Let them reveal themselves. It will save us the trouble of discovering them.
Kiris frowned. Her eyes were fixed on the binaric choirs below.
The Conclave is displeased. Speaking of unilateralism, you have unilaterally dragged us into this mess. Don't think it goes unnoticed.
So the Conclave will get involved.
Is that all you take from what I said? Yes, Apollyon. You have our support. We didn't want this confrontation, but it is imperative that the Inquisition is seen to triumph.
Just so.
But the Conclave is displeased.
Yes, you said. But it was not me that started this. The Celestial Lions chose their disobedience, not I.
Kiris pursed her lips. She was quiet for a few moments, before speaking again.
Did Hattar truly have to die?
How can you ask me that?
Kiris offered a small shrug.
Still.
Yes. Of course it did.
Kiris nodded. She watched as a MEKBOSS walked along the choir, the three-legged abomination swinging a censer of sacred machine oil.
All right, then. The delegation. It is in hand,
Yes.
and we will have deniability.
Apollyon's blue eyes glittered.
Yes. Not too much, and not too little. Just enough.
The shuttle glided softly through the void, clamps reaching out like limpet feet to the edge of the spaceship's hull. Melter burners silently blazed through the adamantine, scorched golden paint peeling back as the metal fell away. A proboscis tube extended from the shuttle into the darkness beyond, expanding to fill the hole and secreting vacuum sealant between tube and gnarled metal. Inflatable internal airlocks achieved full functionality. Soft lumens glimmered from red to a pale, sickly green. Ratings in armoured void suits and wielding blocky las carbines advanced in the slow gait of those accustomed to zero gravity, the stab lights on their guns and helms spiking shivers of illumination about the boarding tube. They soon left the tube. Their mag boots whirred in readiness as machine spirit sensors registered solid metal. Stab lights pierced the black, pausing on the grotesque pulsations of tentacle growths. The lights cast sinister shadows on the walls. Every surface was caked in iced-over blood. Where the walls had grown eyes, they were frozen over with a roomy film of hoarfrost.
Evidence of catastrophic warp breach,
the platoon's lieutenant reported. His eyes, hardened to the horrors of the cosmos, took in the scene without any sign of emotion.
Do we proceed?
The reply buzzed through the Vox implant, fused directly to his cochlea.
Negative. Augur's reading black. Can you confirm identification?
The lieutenant looked about the frozen docking bay, his stab light settling on the shape of a gunship. He noted the gold and blue paint beneath a veil of ice, and saw the sigil of a roaring lion.
Celestial Lions Astartes chapter confirmed. Acknowledged. Get your men out of there, Lieutenant.
The lieutenant paused.
What about salvage?
He asked.
I'm looking at an intact Storm Eagle gunship right now. Negative, Lieutenant. The risk of corruption is too great. Withdraw.
The lieutenant glanced about with dispassionate eyes. His platoon had spread out into a protective cordon around the boarding tube, forming a bristling spear wall of las carbine barrels.
Understood. Withdrawing now.
They met on Vanaheim again, almost 50 years to the day they had last set eyes on each other. Though it was another temple to the Omnissiah, in another Manufactura district, a sense of déjà vu permeated through the shimmering air. Above, a giant cog skull of the Adeptus Mechanicus glared down at them, as if objecting to the imposition of the Terran Imperium. On the other side of leaded plastiglass was a vast reactor. Its plasmic energies burned so bright that the two Inquisitors were obliged to wear protective goggles to guard their sight.
I have a solution,
Apollyon said. His prayer scroll skin gave no indication of the passage of years, though his lower jaw was now replaced with a many-jointed, oil-slick augmetic. Whenever he spoke, those many parts moved and reformed with a scuttling, insectoid sound. Keris sniffed. Wrinkles had grown across her face, smoothed out by slightly overzealous rejuvenat treatments. Her skin looked almost starched, spoiling the nondescript plainness of her features. She sat in a chair made mostly from a human body, the servitor's limbs replaced with 8 stabilizing legs and a comfortable seat grafted to its back. Its face was concealed by a veil to obscure its permanent, silent scream.
I should think so.
Armageddon.
Armageddon,
Keris repeated, as if testing the word for sense. She pursed her lips.
The entire chapter would be mustered. The scale of the war demands nothing less.
it's a risk. There are many eyes on Armageddon, not all of them ours.
Granted. But it's already chaos. Battlefronts emerge and disappear by the day, and the Conclave has considerable presence in high command. The fog of war can be such a terrible thing.
It can be done. But should it? How long must we persist in this?
Until they fall into line, as well you know. What message would it send if we relented now? 50 years is nothing, Keris. These Astartes are long-lived.
In theory, Apollyon, but not in practice.
Apollyon smiled thinly.
Well, yes. But the chapters are compact brotherhoods. Their traditions and grudges endure, even when their members do not.
It is still a considerable escalation, no?
They have forced our hand. These lions and their pride. We must set a precedent, Keris, for the good of the Imperium.
Astartesian pride is dangerous.
Keris conceded.
But what about inquisitorial pride? What about your pride? I trust you are doing this for the right reasons, Apollyon.
Even though they were hidden behind his protective goggles, Keris could tell that Apollyon had rolled his eyes.
Your accusation is baseless.
Is it?
Worse yet, it is immaterial. We cannot surrender authority to the Adeptus Astartes. Not now. If the chapters think they can operate independently of Terra, the entire Empire will disintegrate.
Perhaps. Perhaps you are catastrophizing.
Catastrophizing? Is that what the Conclave says about me now?
There has been renewed scrutiny into the Hatta affair. Some say you acted rashly. You should have foreseen these consequences we now find ourselves in.
Apollyon sneered.
Some say, Keris? Or you say?
Keris smiled.
I'm just a humble messenger.
Of course.
The two Inquisitors paused to gather their thoughts. The reactor beyond burned with the Omnissiah's wrath. Rippling blue fire pressed against the confines of ancient force fields and licked at the seams of straining mechanics.
An entire chapter is not an inconsiderable asset,
Keris said, after a few moments.
We may regret burning it. Have you been to Armageddon, Apollyon?
Not since the end of the Second War. But I've seen the reports.
They say that it is the largest orc incursion ever raised. And Yarrick is an old man with one foot in the past. He may not be up to the task.
I disagreed with his reappointment. His escape from Golgotha. Let's just say I find it suspect.
It is unusual.
Keris agreed.
But he is an unusual man.
Regardless, it changes little. The Celestial Lions must be made an example of.
Even at the expense of Armageddon?
Now, who's catastrophizing?
Perhaps.
Over 30 chapters have pledged their support.
Not all at full strength.
I have seen it estimated at 50,000 Marines. Not to mention the 1.5 million soldiers of the Astra Militarum, the legios of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the companies of the Adeptus Sororitas. Anyway, it is not as if we will not put them to use.
I suppose not.
The two Inquisitors fell silent again. The servitor chair upon which Keris sat twitched and shuffled, its artificial limbs weeping pus and oil.
You accept my strategy, then?
Apollyon said.
I suppose so.
I can count on the Conclave's support?
Yes. But this must be definitive, Apollyon. Too much has been spent on this already.
One cannot put a price on safeguarding the Imperium, Keris.
Actually, one can. I've seen the accounts, and it is a colossal amount.
Apollyon's lip curled.
Well, quite.
Rhino APCs crept down the smoking streets of High Volcanus, the majestic gold and regal blue of their hulls marred by a pervasive layer of ash. Gutted Factora continued to blaze, where Prometheum's stores had caught alight, a seemingly endless fire that had already lasted weeks, and would no doubt continue for months. But for the dancing glow of the flames, it was dark. The lumens had stuttered black, their machine spirits fleeing the rampant destruction of all-out war. And, nestled between levels 23 and 25, there was no sunlight. Not even the sickly illumination of Armageddon's star that strained through the orange fog of its poisoned sky. In theory, level 24 was unoccupied. Its factora were of minor importance, and had, in any case, been so thoroughly damaged that they were no use to anyone. The civilian population was either dead or evacuated, and any orcs that still lingered should have been stunted things incapable of reaching the main combat zones. Nonetheless, the convoy set a careful pace. They made for Vulcan Bridge, a journey that would take them from the Hive along its northern motorways, and to the estuary of the Erebus River. Vulcan Bridge still remained in Imperial hands, but things were dire. Orcs attacked from both sides of the river, the position fully encircled. Fluctuations in the aerial war made resupply drops increasingly difficult. And, if Hive Tempestura was ever to be reclaimed for the Imperium, Vulcan Bridge would be a crucial supply line. The mission, then, was clear. The Celestial Lion's Third Company would break the siege on the south bank and facilitate a vital resupply of the bridge defences. Intel insisted that a full company of Astartes would be more than enough for the task. And yet, intel from High Command had proved unreliable, time and time again. The armoured convoy approached the northern edge of High Volcanus, following the main roadway that led to the Prometheus Gate to the northern processional. The poisonous haze of Armageddon's atmosphere cast an orange glow over the triumphal arch, its iconography weathered away by acids into a featureless, ashen blur. The light filtered in like uncoiling smoke, heavy with the toxic metals of the pollutant air. A golden Land Raider Crusader led the way, trailed by 2 columns of 5 rhinos and a pair of Predator tanks behind. As it advanced, its hue was dulled by the orange glow of the outside world. Streams of illuminated dust showered its blocky exterior. Its tracks pulverized the skeletal remains of orcs beneath its tread. The Land Raider passed beneath the Prometheus Gate, Hurricane Bolter sponsons swishing left and right like the tail of an agitated Felid. The rhino procession cautiously followed. Gold-clad Astartes with blue helms scanned their environment with storm bolters pintle-mounted to their APCs. Fully half of the convoy passed under the gate. Only when the third row of rhinos was halfway through did everything explode into chaos. It began with a series of explosions around the archway bases of the Prometheus Gate. The charges brought the gate toppling down in seconds. Ornamental Auslight, reinforced with structural support beams of solid adamantine, slammed down onto the 2 rhinos, crushing their rectangular hulls. Subsidiary charges planted in the rockreet detonated a couple of seconds later, causing the weakened road to collapse into level 25 and taking the rhinos with it. An APC from the 4th row fell into the chasm as well, its tracks squealing vainly as it plummeted down. With the company effectively cut in 2, the orcs attacked. Facades treated with sensor bafflers collapsed as Xenos mobs barreled through, swarming on the convoy from both sides of the road. Tank busters lobbed sticky explosive charges against rhino hulls, their detonations wrenching armor apart. Corkscrewing rockets slammed into the company's Predator Annihilator, setting its las cannon turret ablaze even as it rotated to return fire. Ahead, 3 Death Dread walkers emerged from cunningly positioned detritus and rushed towards the Land Raider. Bullets streamed from their big shooters, harmlessly pinging off the Crusader's hull. The Celestial Lions responded swiftly. Tactical Marines spilled out of damaged rhinos, bolters already firing. Pintle-mounted storm bolters cut through the advancing mobs like scythes through wheat. The Predator Destructor's autocannon shredded the tank busters, Sponson heavy bolters blowing apart orc bodies into smoking fungal meat. At the front, the Land Raiders' las cannons sliced apart a Death Dread, disgorging hulking assault terminators from its forward ramp to engage the remaining two. Their lightning claws brought down one of the walkers in a blur of savaged cables and torn promethium tubes, the Death Dread using its piston hammer to bludgeon a Terminator to death before it collapsed into smoking pieces. The other walker barreled through the obstacle. Flayed wires sparked as it shouldered aside a Terminator and braved the gauntlet of crackling claws. But it made its way, stumbling past. Bleeding promethium and other stranger fluids, it slammed into the Land Raiders' fore. The impact did negligible damage to the Land Raiders' armoured hull, but the momentum of the Death Dread's manic charge pushed the Crusader back, despite the stubborn whine of its treads. It collided with the Rhino behind. Reverberations shuddered through the already tortured roadway. When the Land Raider blew the Death Dread to pieces, the resultant explosion opened chasms where there had been fractures, and another Rhino fell into the abyss left by the Prometheus Gate. Though they were gunned down in their hundreds, the Orcs had little ground to cover. Choppers met combat blades and chainswords in brutal combat. Orcs were torn apart, disembodied limbs twitching fitfully on the blood-soaked road. But Astartes fell as well, bludgeoned to death by the fury of a dozen blows, or else cut down where blades found the weaknesses in power armour that had gone too long without Mechanicus repair. Space Marines and Orcs fought in the rainfall of Masonic dust, and the air was thick with the guttural roars and battle cries of warriors dying in the orange gloom. The combat, though furious, was short-lived. The percussion boom of bolters and screeching cry of chainswords soon collapsed into the trickling quiet of cascading dust. The Celestial Lions took stock. They planned routes by which their separated forces could reunite, and marked the location of their dead. The company's lifebinder was gone. He had been crushed in the initial collapse of the Prometheus Gate. They would have to come back to salvage the precious gene seed of their fallen brothers. The Third Company continued to Vulcan Bridge. Their forces consolidated a few miles out. Though savaged and under strength, the Celestial Lions were able to break the southern siege at the bridge. At terrible cost, measured in the lives of dozens of Astartes, Vulcan Bridge was resupplied.
They no longer trust Imperial intelligence. The chance to finish this thing is slipping through our fingers.
Dust shivered down from the ceiling. The hololithic image of Inquisitor Keris crackled. Apollyon grimaced. He glanced at the expanding cracks forming in the command bunker's walls. He would have to relocate soon.
Fully half of the chapter has been destroyed in a matter of months, he replied tersely. This is not a small matter, as you have been so fond of reminding me.
Our timeline is shrinking, Apollyon. Do you have a plan?
I do, provided our lines of information dispersal are still operational.
They're operational. What is your plan?
The bunker shuddered from the distant impact of Orc artillery. Apollyon's blue eyes flashed in consternation. The bionic that had recently replaced his left arm still itched, and the dust agitated its machine spirits further. The Mannheim Gap. Not only is it the primary supply line between the overrun Space Defense Fortress and High Volcanus, but we've discovered the Orcs are building Gargants there. It is a key military target. If the Gargant Factora remain operational, Volcanus may well fall.
I've read the same reports. Many of the super heavy walkers there are already active. The gap is shielded from orbital attack, and any ground assault would result in a massacre.
Precisely.
No, not precisely. You expect the Celestial Lions to throw away the last of their strength on a doomed endeavor?
What if the Gargants were inactive?
Then the Celestial Lions would overrun the Orcs, provided they committed all their remaining forces on the task. A happy outcome for Armageddon, but that is irrelevant. The Gargants are active.
You are slow today, Keris. We simply tell the Celestial Lions that the Gargants are not yet active, but will become so within days. The Space Marines would be obliged to take decisive action.
Perhaps. But you are not listening, Apollyon. They no longer trust Imperial intelligence. An operation of this scale, they would take steps to verify before they committed.
That's why I asked about our information dispersal operations.
It was difficult to tell through the staticky hololithic, but Apollyon thought that Keris looked displeased.
This may stretch our operational capabilities.
Can it be done?
The Orcs like their toys, Apollyon. We can feed them the information, but we can't guarantee any results.
I'm sure the Conclave can nudge things in the right direction.
Keris fell silent. The hololithic display shivered. Apollyon had begun to think that the connection had cut out before she spoke again.
We can control the flow of information and who receives it,
She finally said.
and we have curated a relatively dependable recipient set. But it remains uncertain. It always will be with Orcs.
We'll have deniability. If the Space Marines discover that the Gargants are active, we can claim it was a recent development.
And then what? Our timeline is shrinking, Apollyon.
Apollyon waved a hand in annoyance.
Let's focus on the current plan before worrying about the next. This is the third war for Armageddon. Opportunities will present themselves.
I don't like this, Apollyon. The Conclave does not like this. It borders on treason.
Spare me your false squeamishness, Keris. We are much too committed now.
It would be one thing if the matter was in hand, but too much remains uncertain.
That is the nature of war.
Nonetheless,
Enough. All this worrying and hand-wringing accomplishes little. What did you expect? An operation weaponizing the fog of war was always going to be improvisational.
the outcome of this war is not yet decided, Apollyon. And it matters. Armageddon matters.
Armageddon is one world. We fight for the Imperium's soul.
You are a fanatic.
I am precisely what the God Emperor demands of me. And I do not care to debate professional ethics with you. You will help me. If that leaves you discomfited, then speak to your confessor. Do not waste my time.
Damn you, Apollyon.
Goodbye, Keris.
Apollyon ended the call. Another rumbling shudder sent dust cascading through the bunker. It tickled along the red raw skin of his augment graft. The Inquisitor sneered and made his preparations to leave. The Mannheim Gap Massacre. a proud host of gold and blue, advancing through the canyon. An orange haze sky, polluted not just by the dust of industry, but the blood ash of apocalyptic war. Gargants, huge leering edifices of stitched-together scrap metal. Iron clamp claws the size of battle tanks. Cannons the size of roadways. Titanic monstrosities with the faces of furious alien gods. Seemingly inactive, cold without the lumen breath of machine life. Metal anthills infested by mobs of fouling orcs. Stalking scout marines peering through the red prey sense of binoculars. The low scratch of their muttered reports through the vox. A distant explosion, belonging to some other catastrophe, a reminder of the totality of planet-wide war. The hunt. A 500-headed lion pouncing forward, claws extended for the soft underbelly of a green-skinned megafauna. The drumbeat of sprinting transhuman feet. The rumbling growl of advancing tank treads. The blood-curdling cry of an apex predator descending on its prey. The red lights of mechanical eyes waking from slumber. The thunderous groan of crudely fused metal and straining rivets. The gargants moving, not dead, just sleeping. The first disaster. The many-headed lion does not retreat. Its teeth are sharp, and has brought down greater prey than this before. Battle tanks push forwards, extending from the formation like retractable claws. Las cannon beams displace the air with whip-crack bolts of brilliant light. Infantry scatter into a loose formation to anticipate incoming fire. War leaders shout and direct the shifting hunt. The pounce becomes a battle. Orcs pour from the gargants like spilling ants. The lions seize the initiative. Pride leaders lead their packs to disrupt the Xenos approximation of military orderliness. The orcs are not mobs. They are thousands of individuals, cut down by bolter fire. It looks like chaos. For the Xenos, it is. But the gargants are moving. The air bubbles as Mega-Zap cannons charge. They fire to the thunderous applause of Xenos gods, artificial storms of deadly intent. A predator annihilator is transfixed in a brief cage of coruscating light. It is a dying star, glowing bright before its explosive end. Gatling cannons vomit streams of heavy slug bullets. They kill orcs and marines alike. A battle. A desperate one. But perhaps still winnable at a terrible cost. The gleeful battle cry of thousands upon thousands of orcs. Entire war clans emerging from the hidden warrens surrounding the canyon. An ambush, meticulously planned. It takes the lion by its neck. The second disaster. A full encirclement. Fanged standards and grisly war banners, holding aloft the crucified corpses of murdered marines. A howling promise of brutality and death. There is no victory here. The lion retreats. But there is no way out but through. Transhuman giants grappling with Xenos barbarians. Chainswords savaging alien torsos. Chipped blades scarring blue and gold. Bolt rounds detonating. Frag grenades detonating. Orcs detonating. There is no canyon anymore. There is only an ocean of bodies and their dismembered parts. Dead lions. each surrounded by the corpses of a dozen green-skinned hyenas. The overlapping maelstrom of roaring hate and homicidal vigour. The gunfire and the explosions, and the stomp of gargants reverberating through the bloodied pass. A monster like no other. A beast in patchwork scraps of armour, a mountain of muscle and sinew. Tusks jutting from its gums, slick with the blood of both orc and lion. Its breath steaming hot. Its piggish eyes glinting red. War leader Valach meets it in combat. His sword carves free 3 meters of alien physiology. It is not enough. Disaster, disaster. The multi-headed lion struggles to escape. It scratches and bites and twists and growls. Its claws are blackened by vitae gore. The lion is mutilated in the effort. Amputated limbs in the shape of entire companies. Decapitated heads in the form of tank divisions. An extinction over 4 hours of bloody combat. Worse is yet to come. Whip-crack lasfire from the canyon walls, cutting through the murderous din. Precision bolts of evil light that find the helms of the officer class. A clinical culling of what leadership remains. Deaf speakers, war leaders, spirit walkers, pride leaders, killed by sniper fire, gunned down from above. The third disaster. Disaster, disaster, disaster. But this is no mere disaster. The Gargants were active. The orcs were forewarned. The snipers were in position. No, not mere disaster. This is betrayal. Inquisitor Apollyon sat hunched at his desk, the brilliant vitality of his blue eyes ever at odds with the parchment scratchings of his skin. At long last, even with the tattooed script of minuscule prayers that made it difficult to guess at his age, the Inquisitor looked old. The skin behind the lettering was yellowed by the recent gas attacks. His breaths were hoarse and phlegmy, always on the cusp of a cough. Apollyon cleared his throat. The noise was wet. He drew his lips into a thin, pained smile. "It is done," he whispered.
Is it?
Apollyon spun about, his expression of alarm settling into mere suspicion when he recognized the intruder. Inquisitor Calice smiled back at him. Her servitor chair scuttled forward. It groaned as it squeezed its 8 legs through the doorway.
You look terrible, Apollyon.
Apollyon offered a sneering smile.
I'll walk it off.
How droll.
How did you get past my guards?
Your guards. How very presumptuous of you.
Apollyon sniffed. He waved a hand to feign his indifference. The skin across his knuckles was discoloured, plagued by liver spots across yellow flesh.
No matter. I assume you're not here to kill me, Karis?
A cripple sent to kill a cripple. What a sad sight that would be.
So why are you here?
The Celestial Lions. The matter is not concluded.
No?
Apollyon scoffed, reaching for the data slate he had been studying. He smugly presented it to his colleague. Its screen showed the pict frame of a murdered space marine. The eye frame of his helmet was shattered by a precision round.
Behold their final life binder. That's what they call their apothecaries. Dead. The gene seed he carried, gone. The chapter is finished. The rest is just a formality.
They have made contact with the Black Templars. Reclusiarch Grimaldus is now involved.
Apollyon's confident expression briefly faltered. He restored it with a small shrug.
What of it?
It is one thing to go against the Celestial Lions, Apollyon. It is quite another to go against a second founding chapter with a pedigree like the Black Templars.
I have no quarrel with the Black Templars. Far from it. Would all Astartes think as they do?
The two chapters share a lineage. It complicates things.
Pah!
Apollyon returned to his data slate.
My spies report that the remaining Celestial Lions are making for the Mannheim Gap. They are readying themselves for one last hurrah. The matter is finished.
And what if the Black Templars intervene?
The Black Templars are hurrying after the beast of Armageddon. They will not intervene.
Keris pursed her lips.
I hope you are right.
In truth, it doesn't matter.
No?
No. I would say the Inquisition has proven its point. Let the Black Templars intervene. Let them save the Celestial Lions from extinction. It is all for the good.
You will have to explain that one to me, Apollyon.
Apollyon smiled. His expression was spoiled by a fit of racking coughs.
The operation has been a success. A chapter of the Adeptus Astartes denied the Inquisition, and they have paid an appalling price. If any survive to tell the tale, then they will simply spread the lesson to others. The sacred structure of the Imperium, the powers that keep the Astartes in their place, has been upheld.
Apollyon waved his hand again.
As it is, I doubt the Black Templars will bother to save them.
If the Celestial Lions survive, it sends a message that the Inquisition can be endured.
If they survive, all will see that it is only by our permission. We have destroyed an entire chapter, or close enough. If some squeak free, no one will believe it beyond our power to hunt them down. And perhaps we will. It will do the Astartes good to be reminded of their place every now and again.
The Conclave had hoped for a more definitive end.
Then its hopes were in vain, Keris. There are no endings, much less definitive ones.
Apollyon gestured about.
Take the Third War for Armageddon. They say it is ended, as if there were not still 1,000 battles being fought at this very moment. But let us pretend it has ended. How long, then, until the Fourth War? How long until the Fifth? There are no endings. There is only war. And that war will continue until the stars are black and cold.
Keris considered his words in silence. All was quiet, but for the soft whir of Apollyon's data slate, and the low moans of Keris's servitor chair. Until, eventually, she offered a small sigh and left.
Thank you for listening to this video from the Archive Terra. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to the channel.